Hello everybody, it is me, GamePenguin21, and today, Reforge Gaming. Reforge Gaming has decided to come out with another pretty dumb take to overall, and we're going to be taking a quick look at it. So what has he said now? With the constant and infinite amount of Nintendo defense because of the Nintendo Switch 2 coming out, this guy decided to put his hat into the ring and talk a little bit about emulation. Now, again, emulation is something that is both available to the masses through various means, both legitimately, not legitimately, etc., etc. But overall, there are methods that we're going to be talking about to getting into emulation. I'm not going to have to go too deep about it because there are plenty of other people who actually know more about emulation than I do. But I wanted to talk about this because other people have talked about it, and with the whole Nintendo defense here, I find it interesting of some of the arguments that he presents within this video. It's very dumb arguments, and we'll go over several of them here today, but I wanted to give my own opinion on this because I believe that I could offer up very interesting insights into a couple of different littler aspects that Reforge Gaming might not have acquired into his mental capacity of his brain. Not an insult, just that he didn't think about it while he was alive for some reason or another. With that being said, if you like what it is that I do, want to support me in any other way, shape, or form other than like and subscribe, which is always enough, links down to everything in the description below. My new single should be releasing sometime this week, hopefully probably this Saturday, if I can get the footage and things together. I'm going to be doing like a little bit of a speed paint, and then I'm going to be releasing the song alongside it, so do be on the lookout for that. With all that being said, let's get started.
The Switch 2 is a very competitive handheld in my mind. It's a handheld that I can dock and get, I would say, impressive performance on my TV. I can take it with me. I can play games natively on it. I can play Tears of the Kingdom at 60 frames per second on a handheld for $450. Go buy a handheld for $450. How many games are you playing at 60? How many? Right? Like, one of the...
I mean, you can get a Steam Deck and play a lot of games at 60. Depends on the game and depends on how much the game is optimized for the actual device, but you can do it. It can be done. And again, it depends on the game.
Reasons that I avoided a Steam Deck was because it can't play a lot of games at 60. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, I get why people get...
It can, but you're just not playing the right games, nor are you setting the correct things for those games. And avoiding a Steam Deck because it, can't play a lot of games at 60.
Them. I think they're good devices, but they're not for me. Then I look at the Switch 2 and I'm like, brother, for $450, I can be sitting in my car, playing, like I wouldn't be driving, playing Zelda at 60. Emulation, that has no bearing on the market. No, that's an aftermarket secondary thing that consumers do. That's not something that's in the market that you can engage with in a legitimate commercial way. No, absolutely not. That's not even a factor.
Well, okay. So this is the part of the video that I wanted to talk about specifically. And he's wrong for several different reasons. While yes, there is such thing as emulation software that you can buy, or not really buy, but download off of the internet via shareware websites and yada, yada, yada. And that's all consumer-based and that's all free and stuff. And that's pretty solid across the board. There is actually a legitimate market that you can get that literally has emulation hardware available for purchase. As a personal example, I have my knockoff SP. Now, my knockoff SP is in the form factor of a Nintendo Game Boy SP, but it's not made by Nintendo, and it's basically running a Linux software, emulation software of Emulation Station, and has several thousand games upon it, of which I can play most of them, and even take the games off of this device, because it only uses a micro USB, and I can take all the games off of this device and put them onto another device, which I did for my Steam Deck. And that's one way of getting into doing emulation stuff. Again, there is this thing that I did with my Steam Deck, which is where I downloaded EmuDeck, followed in one tutorial, which was very easy, but at the same time, while it is a thing a consumer can do, the bigger corporations have actually done this. If you notice anything to do with, say, any of the backwards compatible games, or in fact for Nintendo Switch Online, or a couple of the other ones where the online system uses modern hardware to play older games, all of that utilizes emulation software. All of that emulation software is legitimately and commercially available and directly supports the actual companies of which you are currently fucking shilling for, especially with Nintendo because of Nintendo Switch Online. So it is a legitimate thing that does and can exist within the market legitimately, that a person can get even from the corporations that you're saying are against them, or that are, you're just fucking wrong. So moving on.
That's like saying, well, I'm not gonna buy the latest, PlayStation because I can emulate all of the games. Like, okay, but that's not what consumers can do right now. They can't like go to the store and be like, "Hi, can I have your emulation box, please? You got to buy a PC. You got to be familiar with how to do it. You got to download the software to do it." That's not in the market as like a legitimate consumer option. It isn't. It's an aftermarket, sort of under the table.
Again, the Nintendo DS XP SP knockoff that I currently have is a thing that I can buy for it. And not only that, you can also just search it up online, and it's available on places like Amazon, by the way. I literally looked this up. It's on places like Amazon, either even lists on like websites, legitimate gaming websites that utilize and say, hey, here are the best emulation hardware things that you can buy currently right now. And that's not even just talking about for the third-party stuff of companies that are doing this for emulation needs for the older games. Again, for some of the companies out there that are currently working on it and currently have a lot of the games out there on previous hardware, those games run on emulated hardware because they can't technically run on modern hardware, so they have to kind of emulate it and trick the thing. Because that's all that emulation is. It literally just tricks the game into utilizing the checks that were made back in the day and says, hey, I'm running on correct hardware, let's run the game. Because that's all it is. It just tricks the software.
Able thing that people do. It is legal. Has anybody actually looked into the fact that, like, does Nintendo say that's okay? That is it in the terms and conditions? Like, that they're like, yeah, that's totally fine. You can do this. Legion Go can emulate. Right, but
that's not the point. The point is that it is completely and utterly 100% legal in the eyes of most of the law here because it falls under such things as fair use, which is what I'm doing currently right here. Where fair use is where I add more content on top of it, utilizing whatever content or whatever previous things it happens to there. This has been established in a previous lawsuit between Sony and I think another emulation software thing. And what I also have found interesting is that while, yeah, there is such a thing as like emulation hardware and stuff. What about things such as like the Atari Flashback, which was a available thing that I actually also have now that I'm thinking about it, and all of those like plug and play games that do kind of emulation stuff. Maybe that's not emulation. Maybe this is something different. Regardless, another example of emulation being on the market of the Atari Flashbacks that you can buy, and some of the other smaller like consoles of the SNES, the NES stuff that was available for a limited time. Both of those used emulation, so there was that. Overall, you're still wrong.
That's not an option for the average consumer. You're not countering what I'm saying. For me to go into the market right now and buying a $450 Switch, and you're like, but I can emulate. Okay. Emulation's legal. No. I didn't ask about the legality. I asked about the terms of service. Like, does Nintendo say that's okay, or could they put a stop to it if they found a way to...
The terms of service do not matter when the legality of it actually fucking matters. While, yes, the terms of service can, on an individual level, make sure that you don't tamper with the actual hardware itself, the software can definitely fall under fair use if it's modified enough. Now, again, this doesn't include the fact that there are such things as cease and desists, which Nintendo had utilized to a number of dumbassery degrees. That doesn't necessarily mean, right, that you actually end up having this. It's just, how do I put this? Yeah, but saying that you're not countering the argument because a consumer can't go into it, but giving the example of, say, the Legion Go, which is a consumer available electronic, which has the ability to do emulation if you watch, say, 1 or 2 minor tutorials, and that's something a consumer can have. Yeah, and that's just one example of this. This is, again, not including the examples of literal dedicated emulation devices that were both endorsed by the official company, such as with the Nintendo like mini consoles that were available for a time, as well as the actual unofficial third-party technical consoles that are available, and also the services that they offer, which usually bundle in emulation with backwards compatibility type stuff. Again, all of this is available to a consumer for a fairly reasonable price, depending on where you get them from.
To stop you. Like, is it in their terms or conditions or their EULA? Do they allow for that? Something doesn't have to be illegal for it to be against terms and conditions. There's nothing illegal about using an aimbot, but that's against terms and conditions.
Correct, just like how something that is against in the terms and conditions can be illegal in some cases.
Of a video game. F Nintendo? I mean, okay. Are you gonna have a conversation, or are you gonna talk like a boy? I mean, F Nintendo? Ooh, what are you? What is that? You're not even communicating now. You're just saying a curse word at a brand. I think price of the console is getting heat mostly as an offshoot from the price of the games.
It's kind of communication if you're reading it out and it's making you this angry at it. Just feels kind of weird.
I think that I kind of agree. If they wouldn't have done an $80 Mario Kart, I don't know if anybody would be saying anything. You're legally allowed to emulate, but you need to...
This is the one point of the video that I think is actually kind of agreeable. While, yes, it is a 450 console a little bit expensive, yeah, absolutely, but at the same time, you're getting things such as 4K, you're getting a dock, you're getting the notoriety and the actual things of the brand. You're getting extra attachments on top of it. Sure, all of that is good and fine. However, it is still a bit more expensive because you can get better full packages for around the same prices. Again, $450 is not an insignificant amount of money. However, for a console, that's pretty solid. Not great, but not the worst. I'm more of a middling type of person because I did some comparisons, and apparently a Steam Deck is about $100-ish cheaper, and it comes with a lot of the same stuff, just has an LCD screen and about the same amount of storage, and can be upgraded and used in a bunch of different other ways. So again, it's one of those things where you just kind of have to do better shopping or wait for a price drop.
Buy the actual game and get the data from that game, and downloading the ROMs are illegal. Yeah, so I'm going to hazard a guess. I'm just going to guess that
depending on where you get the ROMs from, yes. But if you download it from yourself, in terms of you buying the product, yes, it's perfectly legal. Again, nothing wrong. That comment is just correct.
Average person touting the legality of emulation isn't even buying the games. Out of 10 people that are emulating, there's probably, one...
That's a very weird, wide statement to kind of saying like the average person isn't going out and doing that. The average person isn't doing a lot of this stuff. I mean, I remember... Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe the average person is doing this stuff, because I distinctly remember that I used to do that with my Nintendo DS back when I had that. And my mom found out this little card where she put all the games onto the card and then just gave me that card. So...
person in the group who's doing it legitimately, and the rest of you are probably just stealing the games. I mean, I'll just say what I think. I don't have a way of proving that, but given the posture and the swagger and the hubris, the hubris of the people who talk about this, I would say most of you are not buying the games and doing it legitimately. You're just stealing them. You know what I mean? I bought every game I emulated. Right, but Omar...
Projection detected, opinion rejected. Also, that feels kind of strange how you fucking put that. Just real weird.
You're also a lawyer that works in copyright law. So, I mean, do you think you demonstrate the gaming market? Do you think you demonstrate the PC boys that talk about this sort of thing? Come on. Lono talking about hubris. Ironic. What's your...
But he just gave you an example of himself doing this. You're saying that he's like the 1 in the 10 people that are doing it. So yeah, people are doing it legitimately. And again, one of these things is like you're assuming a lot of these types of things. And you know what happens when they say, when you say you assume things, right? You know what they're saying? I'm not going to repeat it here, but you know what they say when you say you assume things. Just saying.
What's your issue here with your... You barely talk. You barely talk in the channel. I'm looking at your channel activity. You somehow have a gold badge, and you seem to be very antagonistic toward me. Who are you? I don't recognize your username. Did you change your username? What's your issue with me? Why are you here being this way? We're all having a conversation, and you're just deciding to be like a little ponce. Like, what's the problem here?
Now who's talking like a boy, not actually communicating? The dude legitimately gave you a question and said, or, well, not really a question, but also pointed out that you were also saying that you had a lot of hubris inside of your soul. But you decided instead of saying, maybe I should do something or have an actual conversation here, you just decided to straight up insult the amount of times that this person's actually done this, that, and the other thing without actually giving, a competition to it. It's kind of the same as someone just screaming F Nintendo in the chat, which you then pointed out was you just basically saying F the brand. So you're just basically calling out this person saying F this person in particular. You might not be saying it out loud, but you can kind of hear it in the tone of your voice, as well as what you're basically trying to do to denounce his opinion. So kind of seems like the same thing going on right there.
Let's be real. If you are emulating, you are probably pirating. No way it's not vastly majority are using it to pirate. It's Skeg. You have a gold badge, and I don't recognize your name. I don't know who you are. You know what I mean? Like, I don't...
Who the fuck cares? like, legitimately, who the fuck cares? If he has a gold badge and he's in your chat and he's chatting, just be happy that he's chatting with you. That's dumb. But also, to go back to what he said earlier, where it's like the person's like, emulation is not piracy in a lot of cases. And again, in cases where it is, emulation is not piracy. Piracy is different. And it's one of those things where we say that it's piracy because the term piracy was kind of taken from fucking ancient times, where it basically, when someone pirated something, that means that they stole something. And nowadays, piracy just means making a copy of something, so it kind of is just like, So it just depends on the context, and the English language is fucking dumb.
I don't know who you are. I don't feel like I've interacted with you with any regularity, and you have this chip on your shoulder antagonism toward me. Like, why are you taking a shot at me? Hubris, that's ironic coming from Lono. I mean, are you trying to bait a reaction or a ban? Like, what's the purpose of your contribution to the discussion? Hubris is an interesting word to describe Lono. I mean, if somebody wants to describe me as having hubris, there are easier ways to admit that you're insecure and you don't like somebody who can confidently argue. I mean, I don't know why people are so quick to self-admit that they're insecure. Like, just engage in the discussion. Like,
oh my god, who the fuck cares? I'm probably just gonna speed that bit up just to stop you guys from, experiencing it.
I've not said anything about you. I've not been like, you have a lot of hubris. I'm saying, when it comes to emulation and when it comes to that topic, the way people talk about it, the way the PC boys talk about it, I'm here to tell you, I think they're mostly stealing the games. I don't think they're doing it legitimately. These PC Master Race boys that pound their chests like King Kong, I don't think they're out here with the collection of Switch games in their house so that they can legally emulate.
But that's not what you said. If we go back through the video, you were talking about things such as hubris, and you were genuinely insulting, maybe not people individually, but a general giant group of people who do and engage with this hobby that you are trying to say, hey, pay the corporations to, get the same shit that you can get for free. Like, it's not the same thing as, like, someone pointing out, hey, this person's doing hubris, or, like, pointing it out. This person pointed out the context of you saying hubris was funny to them because you yourself are trying to postulate into this I am better than thou mentality, which you demonstrated earlier in this fucking video. I think we can cut it off there. There's about 2 minutes left of this thing. I don't want to look at this clip anymore. And frankly, that's like the most punchable face line I've heard today. And quite honestly, I don't think that good old Reforge Gaming here understands generally what he's talking about when it comes to at least emulation. Again, when you legitimately dump the game, which is all that people do for stuff, or you get like an emulation thing, or you do this emulation, or you do that. There are many different ways to engage in emulation, both legitimately and illegitimately, and mainly in the piracy ROM area with, sailing the seven seas, etc. But here's the thing. There are legitimate ways that you can engage in emulation. Those legitimate ways tend to actually be something to do with buying it from the actual corporation. So, maybe not, try to figure out what the fuck you're talking about in some way, shape, or form. At least a little bit better than you currently do. In any case, I think that'll about do it for this episode of I Rant to a Microphone for a little bit too long about a topic that, quite honestly, might not mean much in the long term, but is very just fun to talk about. If you like what it is that I do, want to support me in any other way, shape, or form, links down to everything in the description below. My newest single, music, is coming out hopefully this Saturday, if I can remember to get the video up and ready to go. I have everything for it. I said that I would be releasing it this month, and I am. If you want to see me live, I go live on Sundays for single-player Sundays, as well as just streaming Sunday. We do games and things. Check that stuff out here on YouTube. If you want to meet me for, say, a DJ live stream, just come by and hang out to listen to me do music. I usually do that over the weekends as well. Usually later at night, check mainly Twitter or do stuff. I usually just do it whenever, so I don't really advertise that. Overall, thank you so much for watching, and a peace.
Hey man, can I get a favor? Yeah, sure, hot